José Manuel Pérez Zornero. I am the chair in this round table, and then I will introduce you all the members. You know, to obtain an objective, we need vision and mission. We need also effort, and we need methodology. And then this roundtable is about methodology, about the strategy to obtain media literacy for all the people. I introduce you my friend Víctor Reyo Batista from Portugal, Algarve, Faro. He's member of the expert group of European Commission about media literacy, and he will explain the European strategy in relation with media literacy. Caroline Wilson from Canada, friend of course. She came yesterday, not yesterday, before, 2 days before, and she will explain how in Canada, one of the countries more advanced in media literacy, work, which methodology used to promote, to improve the level of media literacy. Thank you very much. On my right, you know Sami Tai. He is professor in the University of the Caire, and he teaches communication and media literacy. And he will explain how in the Arab countries work on media literacy. And Alberto Parola, he is in the most important media association in Italy. He works about media education, and he will explain how also in Europe and we work into the school on media literacy. Before they take the floor, we'll see a video where there are the most important question about the strategy on media literacy.
And who can say if your love grows?
Well, this is the question. Victor, Reya, take the floor.
Thank you, José Manuel. Thank you, José Manuel. I can imagine that we are short of time and that I will have to hurry, but I would like anyway to give the greetings to everybody, and it is such a pleasure to see so many people from different cultural contexts, as it has been said. And also to thank the organization of the Congress for this initiative, for the invitation, but most of all for this initiative, which I think is a really important one, and we all hope it may be a starting point to something really important and continuing. Well, this is where I come from. I work at the University of Algarve in South Portugal, and I would like to be talking here Portuguese to all of you, but our different literacies do not allow that yet. Nevertheless, the English has become a lingua franca, so I think it goes well. But we have to thank to someone. Well, we could thank to many people, but I chose one, and it is Bob Marley. We have to thank Bob Marley to be able to speak in English, in bad English, to such an audience and not being ashamed. I mean, we know that we don't speak good English, but we speak in order to communicate. And this is a very good example of media literacy. It's one of the best examples of media literacy, at least most efficient. Anyway, I work at the School of Education and Communication, which is a part of the University of Algarve, and I coordinate a research group in film studies at our Research Center for Arts and Communication. And this gives you also the idea of the different strategies that are important to us. We combine in a very high degree the critical skills and the critical reflection with the creative skills and the capacity to produce and to act upon the media. These are some of the research projects that we have been involved, and I know José Manuel for some years now, quite a lot. We started for more than 20 years ago with some projects. By that time, the word media literacy was not yet on at least the European vocabulary. And we started in teacher training. We were talking about that. We started with an international project for innovation in teacher education. Since then, I personally and my research group, we have moved away a lot, and we are now in the other end. We are training not teachers but media makers, because we believe that media makers also need media literacy. It's not only teachers. The media makers, the filmmakers, the advertisers, the journalists, they really need media literacy. And when they are working at their working places, they will not have the time to think about that. So we have to take care of that in our universities and in our research centers. And that's what I'm doing mainly. And some of those projects I will be mentioning in front, and if I take too much time, José Manuel, just cut me all right? Okay, so media literacy, strategies, some challenges and perspectives. This was the theme. Well, in my opinion, media literacy is about an education is always an educational process, although often non-formal education. And it is always about education of attitudes, contents, and forms. We have to reflect and we have to think about these three aspects, because none of them is more important than the others. I mean, if we cannot change our attitudes, then we just may skip the whole thing. If we think that we are not able to change attitudes, then we are wasting our time. I mean, we are doing this because we think that it's possible to change some attitudes in both ends, but also we think that probably we can develop better contents than those that are supplied to us, and also more aesthetical, more pleasant forms, and not all in one can. I mean, sometimes when we look at the media, I come here to Barcelona and I've been looking at television, but I could be in my home looking at some Portuguese channels. They look at the same. They look all the same. And we have different cultures. We have different needs. We have different preoccupations. So why do these things all look the same? I mean, this is crazy. Yeah. So if we believe that we can change these things, all right, let's go for it, for more 20 years or 30 or whatever. But we have to keep perspective. And we cannot forget that for not so many years ago, we thought about ITC, TIC, no? As some kind of miraculous pills that would change everything. I mean, we put the ITC and the world would be better from one day to another. No, we don't believe that anymore, fortunately. And this multi-miracle landscape that we thought we could develop is just an illusion. But on the other hand, if we turn around the words and if we don't think about information technology and then some communication that generally is this kind of persuasive communication and not educative communication, as it was told just a while before. And we think about information, one, we need information, and communication, two, we need communication, and then technologies that can serve these both. Okay, then we are talking, but let's try to avoid these multi-reality shows that we see all over. I mean, Facebook is incredibly efficient and is a very good tool because it showed that things can change in Egypt, in Tunisia, in other countries. I hope that Facebook will also help to change things in Portugal because our situation is really lousy to do something rather silly and not worthy. Okay, let's see some challenges. First, we have to be aware that we have new environments of media exposure. We are exposed all day, sometimes all night for some of us, to digital, virtual, analogical, real, non-real. I mean, these are new environments, are not anymore the environments of media exposure that my generation did acquire. Okay. We have to be aware that media literacy is not one literacy. Media literacy is a compound of different literacies. Scientific literacy, aesthetic literacy, okay? a lot of historically. We cannot understand media if we don't understand history, if we are not able to put in historical context. We need to know about narratives. We need to know the difference between some Hollywood stories and some other stories, documentary, whatever. And for older generations, this is more or less obvious, but for younger generations, this is not so obvious, and we have to work with this. Okay, we have to be aware that this information society that we have been talking about and that we have here tends to move very quickly into a society of spectacle. Okay? And this is not news. I mean, Guy Debord, he told this for for many decades ago. La Société du Spectacle. It's a wonderful book that put many of these things much longer before we could tell about this coming. But what we have to really do, and that is really a challenge, is to use this information society and allow that the society of spectacle develops, because we cannot stop it, but try to use it also for a society of knowledge, knowing about these differences. And that includes everything. I mean, it includes music. Popular music and rock music are incredible vehicles of knowledge, but also of other escapism, okay? Cinema, but still press, literature, why not? I mean, this means that these communication processes have demands and need skills. And within the European Commission, there have been some studies, and José Manuel has been coordinating some of them, trying to find what kind of skills do we need for these things. This is not easy. This is really difficult, because for some people there are some skills, and for other people there are other that are important. We cannot come with a recipe, a ready-made recipe to solve these problems. But we have to put the questions, we have to put them on the table. Okay. And maybe we will have to move from a teaching society that we still are to a learning society that we already are. But sometimes we are not aware of it. And the school, mainly the school, is very rarely aware that the important thing is not teaching, the important thing is learning, which means that many of our students learn a lot more out of the school than inside the school. We have to change this. But for that, we have to change school, okay, which is not easy. It's not easy at all. Okay, some perspectives now. From this learning society that we already have, we are learning things every day outside school in media. Okay. We would like, and I think this is a good perspective, we would like to become a literate society. This means that we would be able to understand things better, to act upon things better. For this, we need to understand that there are several processes that we can use. We can use school. When I say we have to change school, I don't mean that we have to terminate school. No. On the contrary, school is still one of our best instruments for democracy, for liberty, for knowledge. Okay? But we are not using it well. okay? But we have to do media education. Media education is a process that may lead to a result, and that result is media literacy. In between, we have these incredibly large pedagogical processes going on within the media that we can call media pedagogy or anything else. But we have to be aware that they exist and they are powerful and we should use them. Creating new learning environments, not refusing them. I mean, one of the questions in this short movie that we were shown, that I can imagine that were the students here that made, my compliments, was, are we safe? Do you remember the question? Are we safe? No, we are not safe. But we do not get safer forbidding things. Prohibition is the best way to be less safe. We are more safe if we learn to use, if we allow to use, but teach the dangers, show the dangers, and express ourselves and our concerns about the dangers. But we have to allow this to go on. If we make prohibition on some nasty aspects, we may be avoiding them for a while, but the next thing that our students will do is trying to go around to see them, and they will not be prepared for them because we refuse to discuss them. Okay? So we have to discuss these things. We have to be open about these things. And then maybe these three famous C's of media literacy will happen. And that is cultural context, the capacity to put things into a cultural context, to understand that a film can be very different and can act and have different impact in different countries, in different cultures, for example. And to allow ourselves to put that in context, but to be able to think critically about those things, to develop a critical capacity, and in the end, to be able to develop some creative expression, to be able to act upon those instruments. I see that Vladimir is writing his SMS with probably some automatic message because he's literate, he's media literate. But we have to develop these skills also. We don't know, as I said, we don't know exactly what these skills are, but we have to develop them more and more. Okay. All right. 2 minutes. Okay. Well, we have many problems. We could be here the whole day talking just about problems. I show you just this slide to see that only in the designations we have plenty of problems. I mean, every one of us has different designations, and it's not a problem, in fact, if we understand that we can go on towards new concepts, although we have different designations. But sometimes the designations in themselves are already a problem, and sometimes we tend to stop there, and that we should try to avoid. Especially, we should try to avoid media illiteracy instead of media literacy, because the phonetic is really near, or immobility instead of immobility. Okay, in Europe there has been some movements. One of those movements that I'm proud to have been a part was the European Charter for Media Literacy. It was maybe the first one that came publicly with some kind of manifesto. Afterwards, the media literacy expert group that José Manuel talked about and that we are members, has been doing a great job, I think, because the European Commission that does a lot of things wrong many times, I think that this time did something right, because they were concerned to take into this group different opinions, different aspects, different interests. And this gave this compound of different literacies. Another project was this Euromeduc, which developed a congress also, but European Congress on media literacy, and that you can have information online. And I would like just to mention, because one of the strategies was networking, I will be talking about this in another session, but just to mention that it is possible to develop networks that are very efficient and that go deep into some matters, and Comunicar is one of them. I'm very proud also to be collaborating with it. This is one of the numbers that we edited together. My research center, SIAC, and the Grupo Comunicar will be presenting the dossier, the thematic dossier, in another session. So I just jump. And of course, I would like to be here a lot of time more, but José Manuel is already cutting my time. So these are my contacts, and thank you very much for your attention.
Well, three ideas. Thank you very much, Victor. Very clear and very persuasive. Cultural context, critical capacity, and creative abilities. Then, thank you very much indeed. Now, Caroline Wilson is teacher of the Ontario Institute for Education of the University of Toronto, president of the Association for Media Literacy in Ontario. He has worked in the curriculum teacher from the UNESCO in media literacy, and she has the prize of the First Minister of Education in relation with her work on media literacy. And congratulations, I didn't know that. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And you have the floor.
Thank you very much, José Manuel. That was my 15 minutes of fame, I think, thanks to you. I would like to say how delighted I am to be here at this conference. I'm just really impressed by what I see unfolding, and I want to thank José Manuel and Sammy especially for contacting me and encouraging me to be part of it. I'll have to say that so far I'm impressed by two things, being from Canada. One, the weather. It's fantastic and warm and beautiful here. And number two, the coffee. So I am really energized by both of those things so far. It's been a great couple of days. Nice strong coffee here and wonderful food. I'd also like to say that I'm very impressed to see so many young people here. Sammy talked about the power of young people and their media literacies in being able to change a government and change what's happening in a country. And I really think it's young people that are going to change what's happening in education, and young people who are really going to bring about the transformation in media literacy that we hope to see in schools at the primary and elementary level, at the secondary level, and in universities as well. So I'm inspired to see so many young people here, and I look forward to meeting you and speaking with you. A little bit about my background. José Manuel told you a few things, but I have been in education and media education for probably about 25 years now. I have been, yes, it's true. I've been in a classroom as a high school teacher for about 20 years. And now at the university level, I work with teachers, people studying to become teachers, so we refer to them as pre-service teachers, and people already out in the field, and we talk about them as practicing teachers. So that's the work I've been involved in, really, really enjoying it very much. I also belong to an association for media literacy. José mentioned I'm the current president of that group. I'll speak a little bit more about some of our initiatives later in trying to support media literacy education and support the work that teachers are doing. Media education has a long history in Canada, dating back to the 1960s, actually. And it has taken on many different forms throughout various decades. And probably now in Ontario, Canada, that are my particular province where I'm living and working. I work in other provinces as well, but specifically in Ontario, I think our position for media literacy is the strongest it has ever been. But that's not to say we haven't had our challenges. Early in the 1990s, we did have a provincial government that tried to eliminate media literacy permanently and completely. So we have had our own political struggles in terms of securing the place of media literacy in our country. But obviously, you'll know something about Canada. We have a fairly small population for the size of our country, and a population that is spread out along a border that we share with the United States. And many of us think of Canada, I think we had a prime minister who talked about this, described Canada as being the mouse beside the sleeping giant of the United States, and always sort of living in fear that one day that sleeping elephant would wake up and roll over and squash us, you know. So that's sort of an image that we've always had. And I suppose in a sense that has sort of informed what we've been doing in media literacy. But it's not so much about being always afraid of the elephant, you know, on the other side of the border, although there is a little bit of that. But I think media literacy grew out of a real desire to tell our own stories, to make sure that we were talking about things that were important to us, and Victor certainly emphasized that earlier. I was thinking you were Victor for a minute, but he's moved on down. Victor talked about the importance of that, about having the abilities and the skills to tell your own story. So that has been important to us. And also developing the ability to analyze the news, the information, the entertainment that we're producing and that our neighbors in the United States are producing and that we're receiving. So that's a little bit about where media literacy has come from in Canada. I'll specifically now talk a little bit about education. That's what I've been asked to speak about. So you have a little bit of a context for why it has become important. And as I said, right now we're at a very interesting place, I think, in our country. Certainly in the province of Ontario, media literacy is now mandated, as you can see, from grades 1 through grade 12. So it's a mandatory part of the curriculum at the elementary and secondary level. It has to be taught, it has to be evaluated and reported on. So we have never before had this kind of presence in curriculum for young people in our schools. And as an example even further of where this is at, in English courses at the secondary level, and these are mandatory every year in grades 9 through 12, media literacy represents 1/3 of that course now. So what we're really talking about is an expanded definition of literacy in these classes. So it's no longer appropriate just to be literate when it comes to literature or print-based material, but we're looking at literacy as it applies to screen-based and electronic media as well. So our classrooms embrace that expanded definition of literacy. And as well, when we're talking about texts or materials that can be used in the classroom, these have also expanded beyond just print-based material. So these can include, as you can see on the slide, such examples as television commercials or print advertisements, websites, video games, t-shirts, billboards, and essentially we're talking about media texts as being any produced form of communication. So hence the t-shirt with the logo, or the billboard on the side of the road, or the pop machine in the school hallway or school cafeteria. These are all things that we want students to begin paying attention to and understanding something about, because they all communicate certain messages to their audience. The other point that I want to emphasize is that our programs are really based on 2 key areas. Media analysis is very, very important to us, but coupled with that is production. So we aren't involving students in simply analyzing media texts as they exist, but we're encouraging them to produce media texts, alternatives to what they would see in the mainstream, and using these production opportunities as a way to tell their own stories. So a little bit more specifically now, I'll speak to our curriculum framework, our conceptual framework that we use in Ontario. Our curriculum documents actually identify 8 key concepts that underpin all curriculum at the elementary and secondary level for students, and also in faculties of education for teachers. These 8 key concepts can really be grouped under the 3 headings that you see on the slide. So I'll take just a few minutes and speak to these. So we talk primarily about 3 key areas that we want young people to learn about. And these areas are text, the area of text, of audience, and production. So you can see from the slide then, when we're talking about text, we're talking about the message, the ideas, the story that's being conveyed to audiences. And we want students to be able to look at how this story is being told, how we know it's being conveyed in a particular way. So we involve students in looking at the key elements or ingredients that go into the telling of that story or the conveying of that information. Secondly, we want students to learn about audience, to begin thinking critically of themselves as audiences that are targeted by media producers, by media companies. But also the other important element of audience is that we believe audiences can be active. So they can be participants in making meaning, they can negotiate their own meaning. And I think this is important when we think about young people. They're not empty vessels that the media simply pour their messages and values into. But young people can acquire the knowledge and the skills necessary for accepting certain messages and rejecting others. So also in terms of audience, we look at what various groups will bring to a text, their own cultural experiences, their age perhaps, their gender, various elements in their own lives and experiences that would influence the way they would interpret a message being conveyed. And finally, we talk about production. And this is really, again, 2 areas are covered here, and this is to create some kind of context for what we're doing in our programs as well, because I think this is really quite important. Some of these ideas have come up already this morning, which I think is important. Jose spoke very powerfully about media literacy involving questions of humanity and dignity, and human and cultural understanding, which I think is really, really important. For me, a lot of my work in media literacy has been influenced by the work of the Brazilian educator Paulo Freire, who in his work in literacy always talked about the importance of reading the word and the world. And through literacy, being able to understand the messages that are being communicated, because one could read the signs, read the texts that one was exposed to on a daily basis. And for me, this really informs what I'm doing in media literacy as well. And I see media literacy really connected to citizenship and to global citizenship, because media literacy allows young people to think critically about how they need to read the word on the page or the image on the screen, and then how to analyze the information that's being conveyed to them about the world beyond their immediate experience. So that idea of reading the word and the world, I think, is really important for media literacy education today. Connected to that, as I said, at home we really emphasize the relationship between media literacy and citizenship, and the importance of democracy and access to information, freedom of expression, freedom of the press. We encourage media literacy as an opportunity for young people to become engaged and to participate in education. I see media literacy as quite a unique place, actually, in schools, where young people's knowledge and media experiences are validated and are given space and are honored in an education setting, which I think is really important. I don't mean to suggest that media literacy then is just about celebrating young people's media, but actually creating a space where they can think about it critically. So we meet them where they're at and then help them develop skills in critical analysis and production to help them become media literate. Connected to that also, it's important in our classrooms to create space where alternative perspectives, voices that are often marginalized in the mainstream media, are given a place in the classroom in Ontario schools, and for young people to realize that there are stories and ideas and values and beliefs that can be communicated and shared beyond the mainstream media, and that's important as well. Another area that, or idea rather, that really underpins our work is that we see media literacy then as a life skill in our world today. And we see media literacy, even though we're sleeping next to the, perhaps we're living as the little mouse next to the sleeping giant, the elephant. We do see it as about preparation for life and work today, and not protection from the media, but about allowing young people to develop the knowledge and the skills and the attitude they need to be prepared in this day and age. Because clearly, without media literacy, young people are considerably disadvantaged and disempowered. And finally, I've included this statement as well that is very important to us in Ontario. It's a long statement. I'll give you a second or two to read through that while I talk about it. Many of you will recognize this. It comes from UNESCO, but this statement introduces every curriculum document in Ontario that includes media literacy. So all of our language arts curriculum at the elementary level, the English literature courses at the secondary level, all begin with this quotation, which I think is really, really important. Again, acknowledging the importance of that expanded definition of literacy, about the importance of literacy in developing relationships, cultural understanding, and also about the fact that that media literacy is absolutely essential from communication in today's world. So it really is about literacy as freedom, as being able to participate as consumers, but more importantly, as citizens in this media age. And finally, this is the last slide, I believe. I will address and speak to one area where we are still facing challenges, even though, as I said, we're in the strongest position we have ever been for embracing media literacy in our schools and our classrooms. Nothing is ever perfect, and there are still areas where we need to continue working and moving forward. And this would be the area of teacher training for us. And I suppose the situation is a little bit, you know, we have an expression called, that we refer to as the chicken and the egg. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Which do you need first? And in our situation, we're delighted that media literacy has such a strong place in our curriculum documents in Ontario. But my gentle criticism of our government is that I don't believe they have done enough to support teacher education in this area. So, of course, we realize, though, that without the curriculum documents, there would be no need for teacher education, and yet without teacher education, it's difficult to put the curriculum documents into practice. So we're not really sure which needs to come first. I actually think we need both together. We need the curriculum in place, and we need stronger programs in teacher education. And we are starting this for pre-service teachers where I work at the University of Toronto. So I'm pleased to say that we're starting to move forward. We also held the first ever conference for students at the University of Toronto in the fall, in October, and it was a huge success. So that was a great sign. But as I said, I believe that young people are interested in this topic, and they will carry media literacy forward, and I think that was proof for us. So we're working in that area, and then also trying to work with practicing teachers through courses that are often offered through their schools, through school boards, and sometimes through the Ministry of Education. But that is an area where we need still quite a bit of work. Two groups that are working to address this. The first one is the Association for Media Literacy, to which I belong. You're welcome to visit our website and investigate our resources for teachers, the programs and the supports that we offer, teachers that are learning to teach media literacy and those who have been in the classroom. The newest initiative that we have been involved in is called Understanding Media Literacy Inside Plato's Cave. And this is a distance education course, an online course in media literacy that we have offered, just started offering to teachers. And you can imagine in a country like Canada, where our population is spread out across a large geographic region, it is challenging to bring teachers together for face-to-face sessions like this one, although they're very, very important. It is challenging. So we are moving, thanks to new technologies, to also supporting online learning in media literacy. So this is a course that the Association for Media Literacy was involved in developing. And as you can see, it's offered through Athabasca University in Alberta. So we're partnering with other groups, with other institutions, in an effort to support teachers and their interest in media literacy at the elementary and the secondary level. So we have been involved in a number of significant initiatives. I am grateful for the opportunities that we have had in media literacy in Ontario, but certainly we're looking at ways of moving forward and supporting teachers. Sometimes people will go out into our classrooms and say, I'm not really seeing enough, there should be more happening, but I think we do have to offer teachers those supports before we offer the criticism. Because I think if this Congress is any indication, I think people are ready and willing to embrace media literacy if they receive the support for it. So I will conclude, Jose, by just saying that it's been wonderful to have the opportunity to speak with you. I look forward to our discussion and to sort of a shared celebration of media literacy as a life skill. Thank you very much.
Very much, Caroline. I think the Prime Minister for Canada has risen. Your prize is very, very well received. Then, thank you very much. Now, I introduce Alberto Parola. He's co-author with Maria Reneri with this book, Media Education in Action. It's a good book. Last year I met Luciano Mele, grazie tante per aver venuto, e Roberto Gianatelli a Sevilla. After this meeting in Sevilla, I was invited to Corvara, and I was the importance of the media education in Italy, the association MED, where Alberto Parola is vice president. He's professor of experimental pedagogy in the University of Torino. Alberto, grazie tante. You have the floor.
Thank you. Gracias a José Manuel por invitación aquí en Barcelona. Thank you for invitation. I'm very happy to stay here with us, with you today. Yo soy muy feliz de estar aquí en este momento, en este congreso. My name is Alberto Parola. I am a professor of educational research, and I am just the vice president. No, the president is Caroline. The president is Gianna Cappella's colleague in the University of Palermo in Sicily. What is MED? MED is an Italian association from Turin to Sicily, Italy, all the countries. We have some collaborators, professors and teachers and other professors in different territories. in our country. Italian Association on Media Education. Roberto Giannatelli, 20 years ago, is a founder of this association, and Alberto, Maria, other persons arrived in 2001, 2002, 2003, and I am very happy to be now vice president of this association. It has more than 3,000 members in Italy. So much teachers, so much teachers. For us, the collaboration between university professors and teachers of school is fundamental. Is fundamental. It includes school teachers, university researchers, professors, media experts, media producers, media territory operators that reflect on media education contents. Our group carried out studies and research on media education. Mission of the MED is double: research and training. Training and research. It's a group that promotes learning on media education in different cities in Italy. This is our site. Luciano is has built this site, and if you want to communicate with us, you can write. We can send a message, and Luciano and other persons can to have feedback with you. Challenges. We need to. It's not possible today talk about all these contents, but I think that we are here now to have a collaboration for these points. Concept definition. What is skills? What is competence? What is practice? And other concepts. Teaching innovation. This is a need, important need of teachers. Teachers training. The other colleague talked about this problem before. Tools for teachers. We have in internet 100, 200 tools, but the problem is to use these tools. Languages focus. We talk about media literacy, media education, but now it's fundamental to talk about languages, not just languages, digital languages, but theater languages is important, expression languages, art languages, collaboration with schools, build curriculum. We have published in 2006 books, the first steps in media education, and these books contain 13 paths for teachers, from 5 years child, from 10 years. For us, curriculum is very important, but from 5 years to the last year in school, in the secondary school. Experimental research and action research. Action research always for us, always in the territory. Experimental for the experts, but teacher and professor must to do action research always. What is common glossary? For the scientific community, it's too important to better define some concepts. we need to discuss about and share a common glossary. For example, what is a competence? What is a media competence? What is a practice? What is a media education practice? What is a good media education practice? It's a different level of experimentation in schools. What do we mean teaching innovation? The practical and reasoned introduction of technology and media in schools and classrooms. Integrating tools and languages. Introducing media as a study subject to enhance reading, writing. This is a media competence. Reading, writing, critical skills, consumption skills, citizenship skills, and other media competence. Changing the role of teacher. This is very important. The need of teacher is to change our role. We want this situation. The keyword, the important keyword is create. It's not important to have the computer in classroom, but it's important to create in classroom. Other problem, teacher training for 3 levels, 3 or more. Future teachers, newly recruited teachers, old teachers who need to update. All the teachers need to update their skills. The recent Italian school, this is a big problem for us. Reform is based primarily on cuts and not on innovation. I don't know if in Spanish is the same thing or in other country in Europe, but in Italy, the reform of university and the reform of school is a problem for us. We must proceed with local training. Local training is important. And intercepting national plan, educational plans, oriented to languages training. Role of the teacher. We are working on teachers training to make them able to not just transmit knowledge and skills, but also competencies, in line with the requests on the European Union. To promote competencies, teachers have to plan specific activities, programs that are closely linked to traditional teaching. They should be able to document and evaluate them according to the plan's goal. The evaluation is another question, very important question for the media education. Evaluate what? What I must to evaluate? The teacher, this is another question, very important, needs to design project. This is a change of role, to design project and elaborate hypotheses. This is a teacher researcher. In Italian school, there are some teacher researchers. A little bit number. Can the teacher design his or her activities, makes hypotheses about students' learning, experimenting new teaching methods and monitoring their efficacy? We have the teacher that observe the classroom, observe the process, observe and document process. In essence, we need a researcher teacher who is not satisfied to assign ratings, but who observe the learning dynamics and the learning processes with the same school colleagues and other schools colleagues who can repeat and observe the same path in other contexts, the transfer, the activities in other contexts. Teachers have many educational tools available, but they do not know how to use them. Teachers would like to better observe the reactions of their students as a result of their educational choices but they do not know how to do. Teachers would like to evaluate the effectiveness of their courses, but do not have sufficient research skills to produce assessment tools. These are 3 problems, very important. For the training, we must to solve this problem with the training, with the teacher trainings. Not just digital languages, but theater, dance, music, and non-verbal languages. 2 minutes, okay. Med mission, documentation of media education activities in school. First steps in media education, the books of 2006. Study of PENT efficacy. European project, this book is the results of the European project. Action research in local context, always. The magazine, we can talk about this magazine tomorrow morning, if possible. Teacher Education National Plan, and we are working to the second steps under construction from 11 years to 14 years. Okay. This is the site of Owner Project. If you want to use this site, and this is a site of our magazine. Okay, I conclude. No problem. Perspectives, okay.
In 1 minute.
We can work together on the individual points that I have shown before, all together. French, Spanish, English, Arabian, Italian, all the world, if you want. We have already done something together, such as sharing ideas, visiting our summer schools, exchanging perspective about our magazines. Manuel know this summer school, 1 week in July, all the years. In the future, we can do many things together, such as reflecting on the media education needs in some changing way countries, doing comparative research, finding new research ways on media education, quantitative and qualitative, to participate in new European research projects, and then any other ideas. Thank you very much. This is a bibliography if you want to read some books. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed, because it's your perspective of our perspective in the Congress. You will find some information more about the review and about On Air in the next session with Maria and the other day. Thank you very much. Now, I introduce, it's not necessary, you know him. Samitai will speak about the perspective on media literacy in relation with Mentor Association. Sami, you have the floor.
Okay, muchas gracias. Thank you, José Manuel. I think I'm going to talk briefly about what we're going to do in the future. Therefore, I'll mention something about Mentor Association, our activities, and some of our initiatives, and then I'll move straight away to our strategy for next few years or for the near future. Mentor Association, our association was founded in 2002. It's a non-profit organization, and we embarked in a UNESCO project, Mentor project, which was during the late 90s. And when this project was over, we decided to proceed with the same mission of Mentor. Therefore, we decided to go and establish Mentor Association. As I said, it's a non-profit organization. We don't aim at profit. Our mission is to raise awareness about media literacy, education in the world, and to act as a forum and bridge for intercultural dialogue. And that's the reason why we are mainly interested in bringing people from different cultures together so that they can talk, they can mix, and they can understand each other. Our activities, Mentor organized and participated in many national, regional, and international activities. We managed to organize a few events here and there. I'll mention them in a minute. Mentor also produces a few materials, a few publications, books, and things like that. One example, we organized in 2007 a huge international conference in Saudi Arabia, and that conference, it was attended by about 1,500 participants from all over the world, and it was there was a representative of UNESCO, the European Commission, and the United Nations, and here is Jose Manuel giving a press conference at the beginning of the conference, and here is the opening session of these Saudi conference, which was, and out of this conference, we managed to publish an interesting book, which you'll see in a minute. Also, we participated in another meeting in Paris, and here you can see Vladimir. Yeah, can you see yourself over there? And in Sevilla, we also participated in an important meeting on media literacy education. In Madrid, that was in the Spanish Senate. Our meeting there was launched by the Vice President of the Spanish Senate, Spanish Parliament. That was a UNESCO expert meeting. UNESCO, they have a kind of group of experts on media literacy education. And every now and then, they organize a meeting, and that was our last one in November in Bangkok, in Thailand. Publications, we managed to publish quite a few books and things like that, as you can see here. And if you visit our website, you'll see more of these publications. Now let me turn to our strategy, and here I'm going to be very brief. I'll talk about objectives and approaches. Objective 1, our first objective as Mentor Association is to raise awareness of people about media literacy education. We have to advise people about media literacy education. Media literacy education is not only for young children or the younger generation or school students or teachers. I think it's an overall process. It's required for everybody and everyone. So our target here is media professional, authorities, families, teachers, citizens, NGOs, etc. So, I mean, media literacy education is not only for students or teachers or media people, it's for all people, for everyone, for parents, for children, for whoever. And I think we target these whole population in a country, in a given society, through workshops and seminars, networks of media people, courses in universities and schools. And 2 or 3 years ago, I managed to introduce one important course for the first time in Cairo University on media literacy education, and it's going on. And we are using the empowerment through media education. Our book is being used as a textbook for this course. Teacher training, whether in the Arab world and in Latin America, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Then, our second objective is to change attitudes of people. Of course, that's not easy. I mean, when you talk to government, when you talk to ministries, when you talk to those who are in charge of education system or education policies, it's not easy to persuade them to go for the media literacy education. Therefore, here I think we're still working hard on that area. And here we target policymakers, regulators, parliamentarians, educational authorities, international organizations as well. And we receive a lot of support, of course, from Vladimir and UNESCO and his team, from the European Commission, from the United Nations program on Alliance of Civilization. Our third objective is to link with young people, his motivations and aspiration. And I think we had one good experience during the last 2 days. We invited about 90 students or 90 young people from all over the world, from the Arab world, from Europe, from Latin America, And they were together, and as Jose Manuel mentioned in the morning, the key word was understanding. I mean, let us forget about the stereotypes about each other, and let us mix and get to know each other on the ground, on a face-to-face basis. And that's what we did during the last 2 days. And here we are also concerned with the civic participation, the intercultural understanding, promoting children's projects, and linking generations. Our approach is, of course, to achieve these 3 goals would be through the cross-cultural. We have a cross-cultural approach, and we saw it during the last 2 days with young people from different countries and different cultural background. And in Mentor, we have a lot of respect for the cultural diversity. Therefore, we know that we are different in terms of skin color, we are different in religion, we are different in cultures, but we are all human beings. And that's our main common ground. We also, after the promotion of socioeconomic development through education, we are after access and equality. We are after the promotion of civic participation, networking, cooperation, and we are also concerned with the affiliation with different NGOs, national, international, and regional associations. We have, of course, Mentor has a very strong affiliation with the Universidad Autonoma de Barcelona's Gabinete, and of course we receive all the support and everything, all help we need from the team in this university, in the Gabinete. We also work closely with UNESCO, and we have a lot of support. We have a lot of support from the European Commission as well. We have an agreement with the UN Alliance of Civilization program. We have a lot of contacts and arrangements with different educational institutions and universities in different parts of the world, in Latin America, in Europe, in Africa, and Asia. And we also recently have established 2 good important contacts in the Arab world, with in Saudi Arabia with Dar Masarat and Dr. Khalid's association, who happened to be a member of the Saudi parliament, and a more important and a very important one with Dr. Ali Al-Karni from the Arab Bureau of Education for the Gulf States. I think they are working very hard, and they are trying to promote the media literacy education, and we hope as Mentor to be able to link them to other organization or association where they can get a lot of help. We are very, very pleased to work with them, and I think we made the first initiative 3 years ago in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia with our conference, which was a kind of, as Vladimir said in Sevilla, it was a revolution for the media literacy education in the Arab area. We look forward to cooperation with everybody and anybody, and that's it. That's what I want to say about our strategy. And one more thing I would like to add, if Jose will allow me. We have, in the Arab world, we have a bit of confusion about the concept of media literacy education. When we talk about media literacy, media education, and then we have a third input which comes from the educational media. For instance, in Egypt, people seem to mix. I mean, before introducing my course in media literacy education 3 years ago in Cairo University, people seem to mix between the school media, the posters and the school press, and the media education. People were confused. They were mixing the educational media and media education. We hope that by raising awareness of people, we will be in a position to distinguish and to do more effort to raise this awareness. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you very much, Sami. Very clear and very stimulating. Then, it's a pity don't have time to discuss, to answer, but be sure all the people here will be with us during all the Congress. They will have again in another roundtable. I have understood that you prefer go to the lunch. Then thank you very much, all the people here, especially the people has in this floor. Thank you very much. This is the beginning of the beginning. I'll see you at 3:30, more or less. Thank you very much.